and everybody wants to know, what is the Cowboys going to do at 17? Well, in my opinion, there's a couple ways they can go, but my personal preference for them for this draft would be to trade down. They're at 17, they're in a tough spot. Obviously, the three biggest needs they have are pass rusher, secondary, and probably a slot receiver are the three biggest needs. However, the recent retirement of Travis Frederick may make them go elsewhere in the draft. That remains to be seen, though. The fact of the matter is, for the majority of those positions, they're in a tough spot because the second best corner in the draft is the consensus is C.J. Henderson. However, with the Falcons one pick before them at 16 and rumors that they're going to trade up possibly even into the top 10 to secure him or even a high-profile defender, puts Cowboys in a predicament that they're going to need to make a move. Otherwise, they'd be reaching if they stood pat. So, in my personal preference or opinion, I believe that they should trade down. Obviously, you have to see what you can get for positive value. They haven't made a whole lot of moves in recent years. However, when they've moved back and drafted by need instead of based on, the best player available, it's tended to work out. Back in 2013 when they drafted Travis Frederick, obviously they moved back to 31. Everybody thought they reached on him. Turns out to become an All-Pro, and they got an additional draft picks for moving back to 31. Obviously, I don't know if they don't have to move back too far, and it all depends based on who falls in their lap to where somebody would be desperate enough to trade up. There's a couple positions that probably there would be a need. If one of the top three receivers in Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, or Henry Ruggs, if one of those three fell to Dallas, I don't believe it's Dallas' best interest to take one of those players. But I feel like somebody would pay a premium just to get their services. So maybe trading down with somebody like Minnesota who has 2 first-round picks. Obviously, you wouldn't get both in that deal, but you could get at least one of those, if not, and possibly a day 2 pick or even more based on how desperate they are. But I believe personally the biggest drop off in terms of talent for the middle round pick would be linebacker. There's 2 elite linebackers in this class that are projected first rounders, and that is Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma and Patrick Queen from LSU. Obviously, they came out of the limelight to have big years. Everybody's got them in their first round. Depends on who they want to go with. I think Baltimore could be a team that wants to trade up. Obviously, they had the best record last year, and when you want to run it back, you need to accumulate the kind of talent to where it's going to help you contend and possibly even get back to the Super Bowl in the following season after having that disappointing middle divisional round loss against the Titans. So obviously they don't have a ton of needs, but they don't have a quality linebacker under contract right now, and I believe that they need to snag at least one of those, maybe even but with the Raiders picking at 19, Saints picking at 24, Patriots even at 23, there are several teams in the early 20s and late teens that do need linebackers. So I believe that Baltimore, if they are going to go in that direction, I don't believe that one will fall to them. And I believe that it would be in their best interest to trade up. Also, they have 2 second-round picks to package one of those in with that late first rounder, and that would be the best interest for them. Now, in terms of Dallas, dropping back to 28, you would get the 28th pick. You would already have your 51st selection in the second round, and now you would get a 55th. You would have 3 in the top 55, and in a span of 27 picks, you have 3 picks to hit these quality needs that you do need to try to get back into playoff contention. There's a couple of edge rushers. Obviously, it's not the strongest class for edge rushers, but there's a couple of defensive end / edge rushers that could fall to them at 28. Obviously, there's some teams that in the 20s that do need defensive ends, but with a slew of running backs, or I'm sorry, wide receivers and cornerbacks that are projected first rounders, there could result in a slide for one of the top defensive ends in this class. AJ Epinesa from Iowa his stock has really fallen since the combine. Ran slower than a 5 flat, didn't bench 20 reps, and just did not test well at all. And his frame just kind of makes you think that, he won't translate. But, he's a big guy that just needs to put on a little bit of weight. But that's obviously affected his draft stock. Some even have him falling out of the first round. I believe that's a guy that could really help them on the back end. He has plenty of moves, and he's had about 30 sacks throughout his college career. So that would be a interesting way to go. There are rumors that Dallas is targeting Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State. Don't know a whole lot about him, but I do know that he does have a motor. He was one of those late risers in the draft, and if you get one of those two guys, you'd be set up nicely. Obviously, like I said before, there's a couple corners that I really like. Jalen Johnson can play both the run and the pass, and he's a very physical corner, and I think his game could really translate to the next level. And then you have guys like Trayvon Diggs, who, wide receiver turned corner, the brother of Stephon Diggs from Alabama. And you also have guys like A.J. Terrell, who, has a little bit of rap against his name because of the championship performance he put on. But, there's some quality guys that you could get at 28. And doing that, you can use those two second rounders to even trade up even further to early in the second round to get one of those huge fallers in the draft. I think they do need to target safety, but it's not what they need in the first round. Obviously, Xavier McKinney is really liked by Cowboys fans across the country, but I feel like it's a little bit of a reach to go there. Or even at Grandel Pitt, the Jim Thorpe winner from this last season. I think that the latter, especially Grant, would be falling into the second round, maybe even potentially down into the 40s. But the thing is, you have Chicago with 2 second-round picks that could snag him up. I really personally like Antoine Winfield. He reminds me of the Honey Badger. He's very young but very skilled. He led the team, Minnesota's underdog team last year, in tackles, in interceptions, in forced fumbles. He was just all over the field. He does have injury concerns, but because of his size and those injury concerns, he hasn't been talked about as a first rounder. I believe that he's a solid value, and you don't have to immediately plug him in, and you can just have him be a rotational piece behind Clinton Dix and Xavier Woods for just this season. And then once you have to make a decision on both of them next offseason, you'll at least have one secure option on the back end. And you also have everybody wants to go receiver in this class. There's so many receivers. You don't need one in the first round. You don't maybe not even need one in the second round. But Dallas needs a slot receiver. Obviously, slot receivers don't really come at a premium. You can find a lot of them in the middle to late rounds. I really like guys like Devin Duvernay, who is kind of like a very crisp route runner and has kind of got sneaky quickness, running a 4.39 in the 40. You also have guys like KJ Hamler from Penn State. You have a couple other guys that I think that you'd be best served going for a guy who can also give you maybe kick return duties. They haven't really had a quality kicker, punt returner since Dwayne Harris when he left back in, I believe, 2016. So, there's a couple of ways you can go, but I really think that those are the areas you should attack early on, and obviously we'll find out come Thursday. But in all reality, I think it's in their best interest to trade down and go at corner with somebody like Jalen Johnson, or even like if the rumors are true, getting Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State. Both of those are solid players. Who knows if they'll pan out. Last time they picked in the late 20s, they picked Taco Charlton, and obviously that did not work out. He's already gone after 3 seasons. So we'll just see what happens. But that's my take right now. Things could happen between now and Thursday, but I believe the direction they're going to go.